Ben, what's up, man? You are getting the late night version of my video, so hopefully you can forgive me for my very casual attire here. But yeah. So anyway, took a look at the video you sent me, and took on kind of some of the verbal feedback that you gave me or whatever via text that you sent to me. So wanted to mention a couple things. One, looks like there's good improvement there, man. I totally see why. I think you're striking the ball much better and more crisply. You did a lot of work. That wrist is hecka flat. Very much so. So in fact, I think like every golf pro's favorite thing is that you may actually have slightly gone a little bit too far, which I think is part of what's causing some of the problems leading to your pulls and stuff. So let me give you a couple of visuals to talk about. One of the things that I want to do with you initially here is talk a little bit about your takeaway, because I think that's causing a little bit of a cascade of problems, along with kind of that action of your lead wrist that is causing you to get in a position where you're more likely to kind of pull the ball and miss some big wide right ones. So if you watch your video backwards, and again, I'm always doing this backwards, so you got to bear with me, right? I apologize about that, but so it should be this way, right? One of your first moves as we start that takeaway is to do this rolling action of your forearms, right? So you'll see your lead forearm start to kind of roll back this way. And yo, man, I completely understand. Part of the reason that's happening is because we told you, hey, we gotta get away from getting the club too far up. We gotta get this club in behind you. We got this lead wrist bent a little bit to help close the club face. But this rolling action of moving your forearms in this way gets that club a little bit too far stuck behind you. So what we're looking for initially in this takeaway action is keeping the club sort of more in line with kind of where the camera is behind me. So not rolling our forearms. So the way that I describe this is in my office where I give golf lessons a lot. I have a mirror that sits like in front of people here. I tell them to keep their forearms faced at the mirror, meaning this way, for kind of as long as they can as they get to here. So once we get to about here, then the club's gonna start working behind us. We're gonna use that left wrist to get that club up a little bit higher here into this nice lead wrist bowed condition or position. But we don't want to do that quite so early, snatching it back inside. Okay. So that's the first thing. So a lot of different ways to feel that. Like I said, just feeling like your forearms are going to kind of stay nice and close together here, face this way until we get in this kind of position is a really good way to feel that. If you find that you're having a little bit of trouble doing that, you can put some stuff in the way is one way to do it. So if we get set up here, right, and we're getting to go, if we roll our forearms inside, let's say that you put like an empty range basket is one thing that can work, or like a head cover or something like that. So if we're starting here and we're starting to take away, put something in here, just kind of make you stay above that this way. That can help you get into a little bit better position there, okay? Now, the lead wrist is looking awesome, man. I think it's starting to get just actually slightly too bowed, kind of, to where when we take a look at the position of the club at the top, it's very, very shut. So let's shoot for this. I think if we take a look at kind of our wrist here, right? This would be dead flat. This was kind of that cupped position we were looking at before, and this is bowed. I think we'll be looking for like very slightly bowed at the top of your backswing instead of like quite this far closed. So because that club face is quite so closed, you're actually making like a really nice turn through the ball, swinging through really nice and freely like a good athlete that I know you are. And I think that's a big part of what's leading to all those like slightly excessive pulls. We want to do all that stuff. It's just like a mechanism to help you close the face. Now that you've really got that face nice and closed kind of in relation to the path you're going for, I think we can start to taper that back a little bit. So my favorite golf instructor, one of the favorite old school dude from Texas named Harvey Pennick, used to say, students would come to me when they were sick and I'd give them 2 aspirin. And then unfortunately, about a month later, they would have chugged the whole bottle of aspirin. So we're running into that problem just a little bit. So it's not that the things I gave you were wrong, it's that you're starting to do it just a little bit too much to where that club face is getting overly closed. So that as you're swinging through, you're pulling the ball just a little bit extra. So, you'd mentioned you felt like maybe you were steep. What's funny about that is bro, I promise you on some of those swings, you probably were a little bit steep and you had the face shut a little bit and you hit some balls that were smothered a little bit extra that way. But I think if we taper that wrist closure back just a little bit, it'll make it easier for you to just kind of like manage the club face and keep it a little bit straighter. I think another good drill for you to do also, I assume that those pulls are the ones that are, the way that you describe them at least, like starting off to the right and then kind of staying right, probably going a little bit hard and a little bit low, maybe even going a little bit long on occasion. So a good drill for you to be a good drill for you to do would be to grab, like, I don't know if you have like an alignment rod, if you know what I even mean by that, like one of those sticks, right, that people throw on the ground. Duncan, stop, buddy. You throw on the ground. So take it, put it about 10 feet ahead of where you're hitting balls. And so for you, stop, buddy, stop. And so for you, as you're trying to hit balls, you would feel like you're going to start that ball to the left of the alignment rod, okay? Sorry about my pup. He just gets all agitated when he doesn't know who I'm talking to. Okay, yeah. So just those two things, man. So I would work first on that takeaway piece here. Try and feel like those forearms are faced longer at the mirror here. Keep it out to here, right? Maybe use something in between here to keep that takeaway just from rolling those forearms inside. That's a little bit of a killer. Work on maybe that left wrist not getting quite so bowed this way because it is getting that face slightly overly shut. And then 3, work on kind of that start line piece. And what I mean by that is like, what direction is that ball starting at? So we know basically the start line, like where the ball starts flying off at, is basically determined about by like 75 to 80% of like where the face is pointed at impact, right? So if you're hitting those pulls to where we know that face is getting overly closed and starting that ball off to the right and going right with those pulls, if we put that alignment rod out in front of us at about 10 feet and we're gonna start that ball out to the left of it, it's still okay if we draw it back, perhaps to the right towards our target, but not necessarily like starting that ball right of our target. We'll start to calibrate that face back to where we want it to be. So hopefully that makes sense, bro. Let me know if you couldn't hear anything because of my good boy here, but he got all fired up. So anyway, hope you find some success, man, and we'll get together again soon, okay?